Southwest Fire Academy was established in 2015 as a response to the recognized need for quality, safe, and affordable fire and rescue training in Ontario. This is not your average fire college. SFA has high standards for their students, and it is their mission to teach and produce qualified, ambitious firefighters who are prepared to work hard to serve their communities. This is not a diploma mill. This is where you can learn strategic, aggressive firefighting from passionate, intelligent instructors who never forget why they were made to do this job. SFA is an accredited private career college that is regulated by the Ministry of Training, colleges, and universities, with a memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Fire Marshal. This means that SFA is an approved training provider with the OFM, and the programs are recognized in Ontario. Check out their pre-service and expanding selection of course offerings at southwestfireacademy.ca. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 105 of Multiple Calls. I'm Scott Hewlett. When someone enters a career that a family member chose, especially a parent, we often call it following in their footsteps. But a generation apart, the job and the path to it, especially in emergency services, are drastically different. The required qualifications, the hiring process, the recruit academy, the services provided, and the technology and equipment used are constantly changing. What doesn't change is the shared understanding of the desire to be challenged and be of service. Perhaps as well, the feeling that comes from being shoulder to shoulder with your colleagues in uniform at a ceremony. The breeze on your face as you drive streets at dusk on a peaceful evening. The stimulation overload while responding to a heavy call. Or the banter and energy around mealtime. It's the intangibles, the subjective, the spirit that touches and tugs on our hearts. So the inevitable questions such as, will they be as good as the relative, or as bad? Or is it the reason they were selected? Or will they get special treatment and feel entitled? Are all moot. They aren't the same person, and it isn't the same fire service. We would do better to ask ourselves, what deeper meaning and connection to the job does this opportunity present to them? And how can we see the job through that lens to remind us of the common current that flows to this calling decade after decade? Is that the energy that a family member has been closer to, that they feel resonates in their blood? And how does that resonate with us? Here's my chat with Darren van Zandbergen. Okay, we're off to the races.
All right, buddy.
How was your day?
Well, it's just been one of those days. It's been busy. Feels like I just got up and started running.
Okay. Well, start by telling me where you grew up and a bit about your family.
I grew up in Saskatchewan, Birch Hill, Saskatchewan, just south of Prince Albert. Farming community. I worked on a lot of farms out there. My dad was a teacher. Didn't rub off. I was the class clown. Just did enough to get by so I could play all the sports. I did all the team sports. I did everything that they offered. Track and rugby and football and hockey and everything.
You're a pretty big dude. Were you big as a teen? Did you grow early and helped you in the sports?
I was 6 foot tall in grade 6. I only grew a few inches after that and then filled out a bit.
You had brothers?
Yep, I had 2 brothers growing up. One was 5 years older and one was just younger than me. The one a year younger than me, we fought tooth and nail. They'd split up the school just to play in the school. And they'd always put me and my brother on opposite teams. So we'd always play against each other. One time they put us together and we realized that we fought so much against each other on sports and teams that we knew how each other played. And we put us together. We were pretty good.
You would have done individual sports and track, right?
Oh, yeah. I did 100, 200, 400 relay. I was a sprinter and a jumper. In baseball, they always put me in the center field. I could cover the whole field. Somebody's sleeping, I could still cover them.
I imagine most of your coaches were mentors to you.
Yes. For team sports, right? They always talked about team and working together as a team. But when you get into mentors, and I think everybody's the same. You don't have just 1 or 2 mentors. You have mentor for every part of your life. When I joined the military, I had mentors there, like Bush and Ives, McDonald and Deering, right? They all taught me how to be a soldier. And then I switched over to fire in the military for another 9 years. And there I had Purcell and Bobby Sloan and all these guys that would push you mentally. And then when I went to the training division at Oakville, you cross paths with guys like Roland and Chuck Gee and Brass and Johnny Cadiz and Riley. And those guys, they push you.
Did you enter into the military right from high school?
Yes. I wanted to be a firefighter. I went to the local fire department in Prince Albert, and they looked at me and they said, "Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Come back when you have some life experience." So I turned around. I was crushed. I sat on my ass, I think probably for a day or two. And then I was like, well, what better life experience can I get than joining the military? I think the first winter exercise, I was standing there freezing. I thought I might have made a wrong choice. So I don't miss freezing, but I miss the guys.
What was boot camp like?
Back then, it was pretty much the same as you see on TV. You know, they got the guy yelling and screaming, and your bed was measured. You had to make it with a ruler. Everything had to be measured. Everything had to be straight. Everything had to be tight. I remember crawling under the bed in the morning and using bungee cord to make it tight so they could bounce a quarter off it. Everything was spotless. You really had to work as a team. If you tried to be an individual, it would show. You'd get singled out pretty quick.
Any of those habits carry over into adulthood?
Oh, yeah. Even the fire hall. Just getting up and doing it. Even fitness. Getting up in the morning and just getting after it. Everybody goes through it, right? You get up and it's, I don't want to do it today because it's raining, or I'm so tired I could sleep an extra 30 minutes, but it's just getting up. It's raining? Great. It's run day. Let's go. Put on some extra clothes and go for a run. Or if it's hot outside, then take some extra clothes off. You're going to be wet anyway.
You said you knew you wanted to join the fire service, though. What brought that on your radar as an option?
I think the TV shows. There was nobody in my family that was a firefighter, nobody close to the family that was a firefighter. We had a volunteer department. The only time I really seen them was parades, riding a truck. And I never really seen a big fire as a kid. So I think it was just the TV and just looking at it like, that's what I want to do. I was in elementary school wanting to be a firefighter, like Halloween, dressing up as a firefighter.
Did you think about police at all? Was that on the radar or no?
No. We have firefighters, so police have somebody to look up to, right? I got friends that are cops. I always use that line.
So you entered into the fire department in the military?
Yes.
When did that opportunity come up, and how was that process of getting in there?
I was starting a family. So when my daughter was born, I was a master corporal. I was getting into teaching a lot. I was away from home a lot. And my wife and I just started our family. So I didn't want to be away from the family that much, especially with daughter growing up. I didn't want to be that guy. So I said, well, let's do the fire department. You know, I was still trying to do the military pension. So I just remustered into the fire service.
And what was that recruit experience like for the military fire?
A little bit easier than the first time in the infantry because it's Air Force, but it's still an eye-opener. No different than any boot camp for fire, right? You're thrust into that. You're learning everything at a rapid speed. Everybody realizes that, a year, 2 years later, it's like, man, you know what? I got to know more because this is life-threatening if I don't know what I'm doing. I'm either going to hurt myself or I'm going to hurt somebody else.
Looking back, knowing what you know now, though, about firefighting, was the training pretty thorough? Are you pretty happy with what you were provided?
Oh, yeah. The military training was all NFPA, so you had to pass your test, then you do your skill set. We had to do structural firefighting. We had to do aerodrome firefighting. We had to do wildland firefighting. We had to do it all because we were the only on the base, right? Or when we deployed, we were the only firefighters. So we got all the training. So your basic was, it could be off a few days, but it was like 76 training days for a basic. And then when you came back for your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, I think it was 50 some training days. And you got your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and your hazmat.
What was the call volume and experience like over that time?
So when my class went through, there was not much because we were the fire prevention guys doing the close-ups and the inspections and everything else. And we did such a good job that there was not a lot of fires until we came on. It seems like my class was like the black cloud. I went to 3 or 4 fires, which is a lot for that first year. My buddy, his first 3 shifts, he had 3 deaths. Just one of those things where you go across and you might get 1 fire a year, every couple of years, and bang, we hit the floor and you get 4 fires, 5 fires in some places. It's just, they were calling us the black cloud there for a while.
Were the rookie years pretty good? The crew you were with?
Yes. Shenanigans. We had lots of shenanigans. The old firehouse humor. Nobody's feelings were hurt. They all know it was just a joke. Nobody crossed the line, soaking each other, saving king chicks, and just stuff like that. You didn't go through a cycle without somebody getting something done to them.
Is that where you started instructing?
In the military, I started instructing, they call it battle school, when I was in the infantry. I started there teaching a battle school before I came to the fire service. And then in the fire service, one of the guys I looked up to, Coco Turgeon, he was teaching us in our recruit class, and he was one of those guys that didn't need a lesson plan. He just regurgitated everything off his head, and we were just like, wow, we've never seen that before. And he was bang on everything, pressures, the numbers, everything. He was bang on. I was like, yeah, I want to be like that someday. And then you're taught something and then you take it for gospel. It's happened to me a few times. And it's like, no, that's wrong. You get taught wrong. So that's when I started researching. And that's when I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to get this word out. So I started getting the word out. Next thing you know, going from basically coach to instructor to teaching at the fire academy in Borden. And then from there to training officer. Like, you know, from being a training officer, it's a different reward teaching somebody, and you can see that light bulb click in their eyes. It's a different reward from going and putting the fire out or going and cutting somebody out of a car and the look on their face. It's a different reward.
So just clarify for me, when you were in the military, were you still in Saskatchewan or did you switch over to Ontario? Like, when did the move happen?
No, when I joined the military, I went from small town Saskatchewan to Calgary in 1991. And yeah, that was an eye-opener. I thought the big city was like Prince Albert, Saskatoon. And then I moved to Calgary and it's like, whoa, what is this? And then from Calgary to Edmonton, Borden, did Victoria twice, Calgary twice, Cold Lake, Alberta. I spent most of my time out west. In the service, I was there for the flood around Winnipeg. Is it Red River that goes through Winnipeg? I was there for that flood. I was there for the ice storm in Quebec, and I was there for the fires in BC.
And when did the move to Ontario happen?
I moved here in 2006. Taught in Borden from 06 to 09, and I joined Oakville in 09.
So your service time was up and you just left the military and...
No, I had two young girls and they were going to post me 3 times in 2 years. The career manager came in and said, you're going to give you your sergeants for the second time, give you your sergeants, and here's your postings for the next 2 years. I was like, I'm not going to do that to my girls and uproot and move them. And he said, no, you can go IR, which is without your family. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I gave him my release. I got out, I rolled the dice, and I got a job in Oakville.
Did you apply anywhere else, or was Oakville the only application?
Oakville's the only application.
How was the process for that?
Different. I wasn't nervous until I got in there. There was 4 chiefs sitting there, 3 deputies and fire chief, and then there was a lady from HR. And I had to teach a 15-minute presentation on how to instruct a class with the 24-hour schedule, how to instruct a discipline. So it was kind of different. I don't know. I must have done something right. I said something right because I got the job. In 2018, when I said I was going to go back to the floor, that's the one thing I didn't like about the training division was the politics. I don't play well in politics. I'm a little rough that way. I went through the OFEI to get back to the floor because that was the base standard for our firefighters in Oakville.
But how was it instructing, other than the politics, the recruit classes, teaching the guys and girls on the floor? How was that experience overall?
At first, the guys tested me, asking questions and test my knowledge like anybody. I had to earn my dues. Once I started taking over programs and stuff like that and teaching to the floors, I think the guys were receptive. They wanted to be there or made it fun so the guys could be there. I know when the guys didn't want to be there or not. I wasn't pushing anybody to do anything because that's when somebody gets hurt. I put a little human compassion into it and everybody got along.
And how about recruits?
We put a little military spin on it. We did the PT in the morning and we did some drill. We did roll call. We dressed in deportment, and I think the guys came out good. I'm working for a few of them now that I taught when I first got there, so that's good.
Did you do any volunteer time?
I tried when I became a training officer. I tried here in town, but I was getting back so late. The meetings, I think I made only like 3% of the calls. When I was around, I'd get my pager and I was like, oh, there's a call. So I backed out because I felt like I was taking somebody's spot that could be there more than 3% of the time. I did enjoy my time in volunteers. I know there's a time and a place for everybody, right? Not everybody can have paid firefighters, so they're just as important.
Did you bring any training experience though to the volunteer? Were you bringing value in that way?
I tried to teach some of the young kids like they were coming through. So when I went through what they call their boot camp, there was 2 other kids, which one was Jesse Bond. So when we got to the floor, like inspections, this is how you inspect your pack when you get to the truck, when we do truck inspections, like a bit more of a mentorship than instructing that way.
And so you mentioned Jesse, so I guess that leads us into how you got connected with Southwest Fire Academy.
Yeah, I bumped into him when they moved up here. And he said, yeah, why don't you come down? Because when I moved to the floor, I think it was 2019, I was like, okay, I'm done teaching. I'm good. I can just relax and do the 7 days a month. And then ran into him and I came down and talked to him and Gord, and I liked the way that they were going. I liked the direction they were going. So I'm just like, yeah, let's try this out for a while. Still teaching there, so doing something good.
And what topics were your wheelhouse?
I'm a bit of a rescue nut. I like the rescue. I like the technical rescue. I like the ropes. You sit down and talk with Roland and Guy and Johnny and just spew numbers on pressures for trench, and I get into numbers for, Auto X and the struts, and that side fascinates me a little bit more, just putting out a fire, but I'll still go put out a fire if I can.
And how has it been for you then teaching academy boot camps? Do you enjoy that aspect?
I do, especially when you got stellar guys, teaching with you. I don't want them to go away going, what was you talking about? Or not understanding, right? If they don't understand it, I take the time and help them out, because I had guys take the time and help me out. So I'm paying it forward by taking the time and helping these guys out, learn their craft, help them get on the right path. So when they get hired on the department, they keep those good things going. Right? I think that's the way we have to grow as a fire service, right? Everybody pays it forward a little bit. You don't forget where you came from. You don't forget that somebody helped you along the way. And my daughter's joined, right? She's got her Fire 1 and Fire 2, and she's down here at the volley department. And we talk all the time every time she gets a call. So I keep paying it forward that way.
And she went through Southwest.
She went through Southwest, yeah. And I told my wife I was staying out of it for the decision. And then when she said she wanted to be a firefighter, I'm like, go here. I'm not saying that because I teach, because I know the instructors. I know the instructors like yourself and Riley and Brass and Johnny Cadiz, those guys. I said, they're top notch. You are going to learn a ton that'll help you throughout your career. And then she says, okay, on one condition. I said, what's that? She goes, you can't teach me. She goes, I'll be too nervous if you're teaching me anything I need to be tested on. So I flipped it on her and I went to Jesse and I said, when's their live fire? He gives me the dates. I'm just like, I want to be there. He kind of smiled. So I showed up that day and she sees me in the hall and she goes, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here to teach. Oh, what are you teaching? I said, live fire. She goes, wait a minute. I said, you're not being tested on it. It's okay. So I got to take her through live fire, which is sweet. And I got pictures of it and I'll cherish those forever.
Did that ease your mind and the mind of your wife as well about her getting into the career that she was starting out on a really good foot?
My wife doesn't like me doing it. So she doesn't like her doing it either. Yes, I've seen what she's capable of and what she can do and how she's absorbing it. I wasn't helping her in any way. And she was asking the right questions and she was very observant. You can see the wheels turning in her head and she's trying to mimic the person showing her what she's doing. So I was impressed. I'm glad she's going down that path. And I told her, I said, don't forget that, because you've got 30 years of doing that exact same thing.
Is she big into fitness and sports? Does that sort of led her into the job?
Her big thing was soccer. Probably the only sport I've never played. And she played it very well. She knew the angles. I was impressed. No, she's into fitness. She likes to run when she can.
Have you guys watched Welcome to Wrexham?
No.
Oh, you should check it out. It'd probably be enjoyable for you to watch it together.
I'm going to write that down.
Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. He's in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They purchased the team in Wales, Wrexham. Underdog story. It's really great.
I got to watch it.
And speaking of sports, and you touched on firefit. So what drew you to that, and sort of walk me through your time in that sport?
When I first joined the fire service, I came to the fire hall, and then the military was looking at public relations. So they said, one of the things in the fire service, what could we do? So this came across the desk, went out to all the stations. So in the fire service at the time, there was like 450 firefighters across Canada. Went out for anybody who wanted to try it. My boss goes, you're ex-military. It says combat. It'd be right up your alley. I was like, okay, sure. New guy, you volunteer for everything. Didn't realize what I was getting into. I was 280 pounds when I started it. I was just lifting. That's all I was doing. And I did the tryouts. I made the team and I realized I got to lose some weight. So in a month and a half, I lost 30 pounds.
Jeez, wow.
I don't recommend it for anybody. I felt weak. I think that's when I met you at Shawinigan.
Mm-hmm.
You at Shawinigan Nationals?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
I think so, because what really stole the show and what really hooked me was I had no idea about the sport. I just basically went out there like a bull in a china shop. And then on practice times, because they used to have the practice time certain times, I remember Windsor and Brampton and Ottawa and North Bay at the time. They took us aside and they showed us how to run the whole course. And afterwards, I realized, watching throughout the rest of the few days, I'm just like, these guys took their practice time. These guys are, hundredths of a second to win for their team. And they took the time to help us, Canadian military team, get better at the sport, and they're helping others, and you watch them help others. Warm up, what to eat, the stuff to stay away from before a race, how to get prepped for a race, how to run the race. I was impressed. I can get into this.
It's a very supportive community.
Oh, huge. Every time you went, it was like a big family. I got hooked. I kept getting better and better. And then I started meeting more people. That whole experience just come together.
There really is the fire service as a whole, and then there's your department, and then there's your platoon, and then there's your crew. And then combat's this really micro niche kind of extended family.
That's the one thing that really stood out is everybody was helping everybody. We're racing Hamilton, we're racing Brampton, but we're talking to each other and how to get better.
Yeah, that must have been cool for you to be traveling around the country and getting back out west where you originally started from and running races out there.
Yep. Racing in Edmonton, racing in Calgary. It's very cool.
Did you ever go to Deerfield?
Yep. Yeah, right on the water, right on the beach.
Yeah, it was a great spot. I think it was only there the 1 year.
I think it was 2 years. I don't know if they were back to back. I think they went somewhere else and came back.
And then it ended up in Vegas pretty regularly.
Yep.
So how were injuries over your sports and fire career so far, and fire fit and powerlifting? What have you struggled through and comebacks?
Everything. Shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. Some of it's just doing dumb stuff too. I hurt my shoulder doing handstand push-ups, and I was just trying to do one more. My form was terrible at the end. I can do one more. Next thing you know, I barely lift my arm above my head. Combat, my leg's tight. I can do one more. And then, you pull a muscle, right? Trying to climb the stairs, trying to do the dummy. Elbows, the hose hoist, the Kaiser, right? It's just trying to battle. I've had ankle injuries. I ran worlds with ankle problems, hip problems, knees. I know Henderson kept laughing at me because it seems like I'd go into nationals good, and then between nationals and worlds, I was hurting myself because I was trying to better myself.
Yeah, it's definitely not body friendly. It takes a toll over a season, especially if you want to compete at a higher level.
Yeah, you push, right? You're hundredths of a second. Yoga helped a lot.
Yeah, so how are you balancing your body out more now over this part of your career?
I don't do a lot of heavy weights. And I listen to a lot of podcasts where it's mind, body, and soul, right? So you got to keep your mind healthy, get somebody to help with some therapy and stuff like that. Make sure everything's in working order.
Yeah, you were saying in the write-up to me that it's fairly new for you to be talking about the mental side of things and struggles in that regard. So what sort of opened that world up for you to realize it more about yourself and what you needed to do, and then also maybe to share it with other people?
This is the first time I'm speaking publicly about it, but I just finished listening to you on podcast talking about mental health. I listened to Rick George talk about it, where you come out of your boot camp, you should be issued somebody. I listened to Dana Ali talk about it. It took somebody talking to me that realized that I say they're special to me because they are, saying that I needed to talk to somebody. I didn't realize over little things how angry I was getting, and they wouldn't let up. And I'm thankful they didn't let up, kept talking to me, and they made me promise to go talk to somebody. And I said, okay, well, you know what? I'll try it. I've had some bad experiences in the military, and I said, I'll try it. So I found somebody, and I've been working since before Christmas. I've been working through a lot, and it's made me a lot better. And going back to mind, body, and soul, right? We need the complete package when we go on calls. I think everybody should find somebody that they can talk to. And I think Rick George actually alludes to it, where he said, well, you think you're in a good place? And I thought I was. It wasn't until I was talking to somebody that I realized how bad I was and how bad it could be if I just let it build up. When I talked to my captain, I said, just in case this is what I'm going through, talking to somebody, I'm just letting you know that if I'm off and you know where I am.
It takes a lot to start to release it, right? And sometimes it can get worse before it gets better.
And it did. And it does. It's not just a fire service, right? It's everything built up. I'm 51, right? And we all know the stigma. You're going to therapy. I had to break that. And it was that individual that made me promise. I owe him a lot.
Does it help reframe things for you too with your daughter entering the service and not be a do as I say, not as I do kind of person, and want to model it for her?
Yep. And I told her that. Even start now. Find somebody that you can talk to and you can trust. When I reached out to a therapist I'm with now, I told her I was straight up. I said, you know what, I listened to this podcast, I listened to people, and then I'm here for a promise that I made. And I said, I'm here to trial. And if I feel comfortable, we'll talk. If I don't feel comfortable, we won't. And she said, fair enough. I found somebody who dealt with emergency services and the military. So she had an idea of not just one background, but multiple that I fit in. And I found somebody that I could talk to and I'm comfortable to talk to. And I think that's important.
What else have you offered her about how to structure a day, her rookie years, her career? Have you had these talks about different phases?
Yeah, she loved boot camp. And I said, well, you'll go through it again, right, when you get hired on. Just not as hectic as at Southwest. You're not living there. You're going there day to day. I gave her some tidbits that I started a while ago, 3 hours a day. I think it was Aaron who said it. 1 hour of physical fitness, 1 hour of skill acquisition, and 1 hour of knowledge. I think it was Aaron.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I practice that. What's 3 hours a day? So I'll get up in the morning. I'll do my fitness, right? I'll come back. I'll eat some breakfast. And that's when I start reading podcasts, depending on what I'm doing that day. Skill acquisition can be anything from, because I'm on the rescue, I'm at home, so I'll use skill acquisition as using tools for renos, or when I'm at work or when I'm teaching, I'm using tools or I'm tying different knots. So I've got her in starting that to create a good habit now to carry on through, helping with everything that she's going to need with and for her career.
Is she diving into all the information that's out there now? And does she use social media and YouTube and podcasts? Is she digesting all that? I know you dive into it a little bit too. Are you sort of back and forth and chatting about what you found that's cool and interesting? And
yes, we'll send stuff back and forth. Take a look at this picture. What do you see? Or I'll send her, is it Perone?
Mike Perone
on the door. I'm like, here's a video on him explaining bevel in or bevel out. Well, why is this? And where am I going to need this? And we talk about the little things, the narrow doors or the walls or the basements, all the different angles, right? And it just creates a bit more of a daddy-daughter time, helping her learn. Even on calls, she'll go a call and she'll come back and she'll sit down. I just screwed up. I was like, tell me about it. If you learn from your mistakes, you're learning. You won't do that again, will you? And she goes, no, I won't. It's like, okay, that's good.
Do you feel like people are more into the job than when you first got on?
I think so. You're always going to have that 10% rule, right? 10% guys just come in for the t-shirt and the time off. I think you're always going to have that. Back in the 70s, back in the 80s, before my time, I think there was those guys then that just wanted to sit in the corner and read the paper back then, or now they just want to be on their phone, getting a t-shirt and walk around and say, I'm cool. You're always going to get that. But I think the kids, because of the YouTubes, because of the Romaguses, and because of the smaller conventions and stuff like that, you get these guys, they want to learn more. They want to be that sponge. You just got to be careful, right? Oh, I seen this on YouTube. Hey, does that work here? We all know there's 100 ways to throw a ladder.
Maybe only 3 of them work.
Only 3 of them work. You're going to have that time where there's only 5 feet between 2 houses. So how are you going to put that up? You got to do this type of raise. So not everything fits. I always say that when I'm teaching. They consider us Red Seal trade because of our first class, second class firefighters, all that. And they kind of compare us to all the Red Seal trades. And we're the only ones that have nothing written in stone because there's no fires are the same. The no accidents are the same, right? So you have to know 15 different types of anchors on a rope system. You have to know a couple ways of dragging your hose. You have to know a couple ways of throwing a ladder. And those guys that are just training, I only search in this way. Well, it's not going to work like that all the time.
And do you find learning and teaching concepts more? The skills are easier to acquire when you understand concepts.
I say this to my daughter. Firefighting is problem solving. When you go to a call, we're problem solvers is what we are. So when you go there, if you don't understand the whys, if we don't stop for a second and read the signs, we can't solve the problem. If we teach the whys and explain how stuff works, explain why we use a multi-point anchor over a single point anchor, what's stronger for ascending, descending, all these little things, right? Because there is no one way.
Do you have any desire to promote?
In the military, I did the captain's seat. Here, I have 9 years left, and I'm riding a rescue truck, and the great crew that I have, I'm on a rescue truck. It's the job I love to do. I love to search. I love the technical rescue. Guys come there, oh, this is going to be cool. Okay, get out your calculator. We're going to put this strut up. We're going to shoot this. Here's your angles. Here's your protractor. They don't realize how much math is involved. It's not just like getting on a pump and pumping some water. And it's a little bit more. You have to know some numbers for cars, for Auto X before you start shooting struts and stuff. Right? And you get into calculations and numbers when you start getting into concrete for collapses and stuff like that. I'm trying to keep up with the book because I don't do it enough. But I keep going back. And that's part of my 1 hour in the morning, right? I go over the numbers. I go over the calculations. I go over the fields. At one point, I'll get there.
Did you go down to Syracuse at all? Have you been to the rescue conference?
I haven't gone to the rescue conference yet because it seems like every time that comes up, there's something else that's on my plate. I have gone down there. I've been taught by Augie a few times, a lot of different courses, and I've taken a lot of different information from him. He's got some great guys working for him.
And you've got brass in your backyard, right? So
you got a brass and like a Cadiz and a Riley building the forge with them. The knowledge bombs dropping all the time. I got into welding and torching a long time ago, and it just didn't click. And then you get somebody like Brass who makes it so simple. I'm just like, well, why didn't anybody say that before? I'm sure they have. It didn't stick. And as soon as he said it, I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. When you got that crew and they're that good at their job and they understand it inside and out, just a degree or two off is throwing their heat. And they know that they can see it from all the slag that's being burnt. I mean, it's like, because they've got a lot of time on the torch, right? So they can teach it. And that's where you go back to instructors, right? You get some of these guys that are 1, 2, 3 years on the job and they're teaching. What experience do you have? That's the little stuff. And I talk to guys that I race against in combat, and they're instructors down in Florida and all over. And they say, well, we can't even look at being an instructor unless I got 8 years on the job. Then you take a course. You pass that course, and you take another course. Once you pass that course, then you can shadow for a couple of years. Once you shadow for a couple of years, then you can start teaching. And by the time they're teaching, they're probably 10 years in their pocket.
But I guess along the way, even early on, there's always someone on your level or coming up behind you that you can teach something small to, right? You don't necessarily need to be a formal instructor on your department or at an academy or in order to pass on something, share information that was shared with you, right?
Firefighter 1 or Firefighter 2? I think it was Firefighter 2 where you're coaching, right? You have to teach that 5-minute class. Well, we used to, because you're coaching, right? You're mentoring somebody. A new guy would come in. Here's a chainsaw. Tell me about the chainsaw. Here's the pump. Tell me about the pump. Just going over everything. You're coaching that guy through the whole truck. You're coaching that guy through how we do things. It's still a mentorship, but you're still coaching. You're still teaching. You're just not in front of a class with 20 people going, hey, today's lesson is.
And it's humbling as you realize how much you need to know in order to simplify it, to tell somebody about it. So you realize how well you really know it. And then you start to realize how difficult instructing can be and how watching people that are really good at it, they just make it look easy.
So in the military, my first year, you couldn't get qualified on the truck until you taught your crew. I've taught classes before and I taught classes now, and I still go back to that going, if you don't know anything that I'm teaching, I could baffle you with bullshit and come out like, oh, he knows a lot. I'm teaching these guys. They already know the truck. They've already been there. They've already taught the truck. They drive the truck. They run the truck. I can't baffle them. So if I don't know my stuff, they're going to catch it. They're going to ask me questions. And I go back to that quite often going, I'm teaching this. I need to know this. We're in a job where if I tell you something wrong, you're going to go and do it. If you do something wrong, you're going to get somebody else hurt or you're going to get hurt. So if you don't know, even now, I do it. Like if I don't know the question, let me look that up, right? Because off the top of my head, either A, I'm having a brain fart and I can't remember, or B, I don't know it. Nobody's ever asked me that and I've never looked that up. So chances of that happening are slim to none, but it could. So let me look it up. And you get back to them. You need to be honest, especially as an instructor. You need to be honest.
Yeah, it does keep you honest and staying in the topic. And when you're instructing, you have students asking you questions all the time from these different perspectives that you never would have thought about. That's filling in gaps for you. So you're learning as you're teaching very often.
I don't think there is a course out there that I didn't teach, I didn't learn anything off of. Whether it's to do something better or to deliver it in a better way or to put it in a different order so guys can understand it. I've always learned something. Auto X or something like that guys have been on there before. Well, this is how we did it. Show me that again. All right, that'll work here. Right, I'll try that. Between the military and Oakville, I got 24 years of being a firefighter, so I still haven't stopped learning.
Has anything surprised you over the last couple of years where you thought you knew most of a topic and then you learned something and you thought, I've known this for so long and no one's ever showed me that. Does anything stand out for you?
Well, Auto X, cars are changing, the tools are changing, so we have to come up with different ways of doing it, especially with the e-vehicles. You're looking at batteries and disconnecting and the airbags and the rapid deploy systems, and the weights alone have changed. So now you need better struts. You need better placement. You need to make sure you're dialed in when you throw these.
Have you encountered many EVs, fire-wise or accidents?
Not fire-wise, but one of my first calls on the rescue was 2 Teslas and a Mercedes-Benz. There was 3-car pileup. There was nothing on the radar about thermal runaway with the batteries. Thank God there was nothing that day. You don't know what you don't know. We just did what we normally do.
Have you been finding over the breadth of your career, looking back, that a lot of accidents look bad now, but they're not? You have a lot of people just because of the car safety. I think it's been one of the distinct changes that I've noticed, that you used to pull up in an accident, it looked really bad, and it was bad. And now you'll pull up and it looks bad, and people are generally good. Unless it's, a drastic size difference or a really high speed or a, motorcycle versus car. Like if it's just a couple cars, are you still having the reaction of seeing accidents thinking this is going to be bad because you had that experience more early on in your career?
Yeah. You listen to it on the radio, right? As you're going out, 3 cars went on the side. Okay, this is going to be good. We're going to be cutting somebody out. And you get there, they're standing on the side. You start crawling in the car and you start crawling around the car going, how did you come out with no scratch? You try to put it together and try to figure out for next time, well, if this happens, I'm going to have to hit it this way. I'm going to have to, go in it this way if they are still trapped. I got great acting captain, a great captain. Every call, you got those few minutes where you're waiting for the tow truck or you're waiting for the ambulance or you're waiting for the police. And, you just start, okay, what would you do if they were still in the car? If you couldn't get the door, how would we attack it? There's all the different scenarios, right? So it just keeps running in your head.
Are you able to get cars pretty regularly with your department?
Yeah, we get pretty good cars.
A lot of departments struggle.
I know. We have a wrecker in town who's really good to us. He's really good to our Auto X team. Whether the department says, no, this is for this and this is for recruits and they'll mark it on. These 3 cars are Auto X and this crew asks and this crew asks. So we can practice different, pinch points, or today we're going to work on hinges. Today we're going to work on just the dash lift. We always pick something we're going to work on. My captain was part of the Auto X team for a while, so he's got a lot of little secrets with drills. Today we're going to use the air chisel. We're going to take this whole side apart, right? Just little things. We're going to pop this door with the air chisel. We're going to take the driver's side headlight off, and we're going to pop the hood this way. The little tricks that he's learned over his years of competing are second to none. He's amazing.
Ever have any interest of competing in the Auto X competitions?
I did, but I got too involved with combat. And you know yourself, when you start training for combat, it pretty much consumes your life. You're not drinking anymore for the summer. You're dialed in on nutrition. You always have to work out and you always have to spend time on the tower and you always discipline. Huge amount of discipline to get to that spot, to be competitive. My mindset was, if I'm not going to be competitive, why would I do it? Why would I put my body through that? It pays dividend when I'm on the truck because of the shape you're in. It's phenomenal, but you do sacrifice a lot. So I don't think I could have done both.
Have you seen a change in the weights and the ease of the job when you were in your prime competing versus now?
Oh, big time. Well, you can ask guys that know me from when I was training, when I was in training division. I would work out 2-3 times a day. And the workouts I was doing was usually a lot of people, that's their one workout. Today, I might do a good hard workout and then a yoga, right? Just cut her back. Alternate ways of eating, getting different foods, so it's not always the same thing. And you feel better, right, when you're eating clean. Get rid of the processed foods.
Do you guys eat together as a crew often? Is that a department culture thing?
I'm in a 2-truck haul, and pretty much we have 1, 2, 3 2-truck hauls, and pretty much all meet together. And there's been days where we make pizzas on Thursdays, or Thursday shifts. Pizza doesn't really sit well with me anymore. I love it. I love eating it. I help where I can, and I might eat a slice, but I always bring my own. I guess I'm not afraid to help out and then eat my own. I'm not afraid to stand up and say, I can't eat that.
Is the dairy missing with you?
Yeah, it is dairy, because when I eat ice cream, I don't like myself either.
It's hard to let that go, man. It's really hard to let that go. Well, there's good non-dairy ice creams now, though.
Especially in the fire hall. Ice cream is a staple, right?
It is, yeah. Do you cook? Do you cook much at home and at the hall?
Yes, both. Do a lot of cooking. We have a great crew, so it depends on what we're eating. One guy cooks the fish tacos, right? So you're up, Johnny. We'll go smoking meat. I'll get into smoking, or somebody else is in the barbecue. But we all help out in the kitchen. We all mop, and everybody does station jobs. Even our captains get out of their chair. They help out. You don't get that a lot.
How are you handling the night calls now? Like, what's your sleep pattern like in general as you're getting older and been on the job for a while?
Depending on what we do during the day. Might take a nap during the day. I've never been that guy, but I realize now that I am getting older, sometimes it's necessary. And I know the guys are going to tease me about this. We're sitting on the rescue. They call it the rescue rollover, because we have the 2 trucks. The pump usually goes out more than the rescue. But it seems like in the last couple of years, it goes around in cycles where pump may go up for 1 call during the night or not a call during the night. The rescue does 3 or 4. So I try to keep my hours with 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get that over the night, I'll come home and I'll have a nap. I'll only limit myself to 1 or 2 hours, and then I'll get up. I'm still groggy, and I'll do something. I'll go for a run, do a little stretch, do a little yoga, and then start, doing something around the house.
Any calls stand out for you as teachable moments that you look back on that are easy for you to talk about?
In one way, good or bad.
Good or bad. I just think some calls are pivotal, right? They don't even necessarily have to be graphic. I find some calls just stand out. You remember them as real teachable moments. They really change your perspective. So I try not to think about what's the worst call you've ever had. To me, that's not a really great question. But if you look back on any that are real teachable moments for yourself that changed perspective for you.
We had a carpet fire, right? You can't really see, but it's 3 levels, and they altered the living space. And the guys were chasing the fire in a void space. We're searching, and it's black, right? You go through, it's like, hey, I got fire. They come down, they put it out, and they just push it back to the other side. They go back there, and they push it back to the other side. Right? They're just pushing it back and forth in that void space. So knowing and trying to figure out and learning building construction as you're walking in, I look at it more now than I did before, just from that call. The stairs were awkward in that place. And just if I would have taken the time and just did a quick look, right, it helps me orientate myself to the building. Even now with recruits and new firefighters in the back, what's important about noticing a ventilation tube on the top of the roof? It orientates you to the bathroom, what side you're on. So if you stick your hand in the toilet, and we've all done that on a call, right, you know what side of the building you're on. If you don't remember, right, I know just looking at that tube was on the delta side. So if I stick my hand in the toilet and I'm lost, I know I'm on the delta side, right? Just little things like that. Staying orientated, like everybody says, oh, the worst calls are the hot fires. Well, no, I think the worst calls are the ones where you can't see. There's so much smoke that I can be crawling beside somebody. It sounds like he's miles away because dense smoke is just altering everything. Yeah, there's a lot of teachable moments and a lot of calls. Just keeping things simple, like rescue calls. We had a lady did a face plant right down in the water, like they have the rocks. It's about 8 feet, 10 feet. She did a face plant, and everybody's talking about setting up anchors and pickets and running ropes that are 200 feet long for an anchor system. I'm just like, no, let's get a basket and walk her out over there and just roll her up, right? Because you can walk it. There's no point in lifting her when you don't have to. It's just keeping things simple. And I think you can go back to any call, whether it's not good to remember or good to remember. We can take something away from every call if you sit down. And I know our crew is good for that. We need to be better dragging that hose out, or we have to make sure that hose is packed properly. Because it wasn't packed properly, and I know personally that it's happened to me a couple of times where the hose is packed, and you go to pull it, that coupling's catching on everything, and you're reaching into the cross leg trying to pull that.
Yeah, the fire service definitely has a fascination with transverse beds or cross lays or speed lays, whatever you want to call them. But man, do people have a hard time loading them?
Oh, I know.
They love them so much, but they have a hard time loading them, and they have to have a hard time deploying off of them. It's like, man, maybe we should just do bulk beds off the back and keep it simple. Speaking of keeping it simple.
I agree. Kyle Rogas comes back to him and not Bonifield.
Yeah, Jay Bonifield.
Oh, he does the trucks.
Dennis Laguerre.
The two of them talk about trucks and bringing the hose off the back, and listening to Kyle, like when he came up here
for the Smoke Showing Conference.
The Smoke Showing Conference here, and then just forcing the driver now to drive past the house and pull everything off the back. So now what's that done? It's forced the driver to put the truck in the proper position. So now you have the front of the house open for more tactics. It's given the company officer 3 sides of the building. And now all I have to do is go to the back and take a look. It's just, there's so much that can be said by just coming off the back of the truck, right, and driving by. I didn't really think of it until he just simplified everything in that class.
If we can make the hose beds lower.
Everything lower, bring the truck lower, so we're not reaching up.
You're a tall guy and you're still reaching, so that says something, right?
Yep. And it seems like everybody we hire is either tall or short. There's no in between anymore.
And it's hard to build a truck to satisfy everybody, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How can people reach out to you and get a hold of you if they need to or want to?
My phone number, 705-543-0911. Text me through Southwest Fire. Hold me through there, or my email. It's just Darren Zandbergen 03@gmail.com.
They can look on the episode to find out how to spell your last name properly.
Exactly. Yeah, spell it. It's good. It's all good.
As long as I spell it properly, yeah.
Don't call me late for supper. That's all. If you want to talk mental health, talk. 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. If it's a crank call, I'll hang up on you. But if you need to talk, let's talk. I've been there. I've driven to a few guys and just sat there with them, talk to them, make sure they're in a good place. And it's important.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to talk to someone that doesn't necessarily know you, is not in your circle.
Yep, definitely. I think we need more of that. That brotherhood needs to come back. Brother and sisterhood needs to come back. And I think we need to be there for each other. Everybody needs to take a piece of that humble pie and help each other out. Because I see it's not just where I work, and I think it's everywhere, where towns and the management, and I think they're being pushed in a certain direction that they can't help it. And that's my personal opinion. I represent no group or organization whatsoever. It's just, I see they're handcuffed, people making decisions or hiring the lowest paid guy, and it doesn't come across well. think the fire service is hurting in that way. And I think it's going to take the fire service to help each other out to get through it.
Well, I'm glad we finally had a chance to do this. And as usual, I just find it super cool that I know someone for quite a long time, but it takes, sitting down and talking focused on them for a couple hours, and you finally learn some more things about them that you didn't know. So very cool.
I was very humbled that you asked, especially with some of the company that you've had on here. It is humbling, very humbling.
Well, you're good company.
Thank you. And it was great to sit down. It's always great to talk to you, make time and chat for 5 minutes, catch up, 10 minutes, catch up. It's always good to talk to you.